Welcome to the Path Monk Presents podcast. My name is Sean Donnelly Lewis, and in today's episode, I'm speaking with Jonny Longden. He is the co-founder and conversion director over at journeyfurther.com. Jonny, how's it going?
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Talk about Journey Further. What do you guys do? Why do you do it?
Yeah, so Journey Further is a performance marketing agency. We have three core pillars of paid search and biddable media, organic search and PR, and then the third being conversion, and that's the division that I run. We set up Journey Further really to try and lift the lid on the way marketing agencies work. There's a sense that a lot of agencies kind of work in a bit of a black box and keep clients in the dark about what they do. And that doesn't really cut it these days, because most businesses are wanting to try and embed digital within their businesses and put it at the heart of what they do. So really our ethos is very much about openly sharing and helping clients up their game and imparting all our knowledge. So that's really what Journey Further is about. I run the conversion division. I've been in conversion optimization for over 13 years since it was invented. And along the way, I've run agency teams. I've been in management consulting, helping very big organizations try and set up experimentation within their own organizations. I've been client side. So I built a big experimentation function at Sky, and now back agency again. But ultimately, I believe that very much in line with the Journey Further proposition, that experimentation is something that best is controlled and sits in-house. And so we exist to help our clients understand how to put experimentation at the heart of what they do and help them with the execution of that as well.
Very cool. And so how have you guys been able to grow the company? Have you guys been doing a lot of inbound, a lot of outbound, and which avenues have you used?
Yeah, so we have put quite a lot of focus onto content marketing and personal branding and things like that, not just for myself, but for the people in the organization. So we do a lot of kind of webinar stuff. We've got a podcast that's very successful, which doesn't really focus directly on marketing. It's really talking to all different kinds of people about how they're trying to change the world really in various different ways. Plus, we have what's called a book club. So we have a community where we share marketing books and different books about business and try and nurture discussion around those. So, we do a lot in that area of sort of not directly sales related content marketing and engagement. And then we use that as a platform really to develop relationships with people. So that's where a lot of businesses come from. But for myself personally, I do a lot of very specific content stuff, particularly in LinkedIn, around the field of conversion optimization, and just through that have naturally developed conversations with people that has then turned into business. So I guess, like in a nutshell, we're taking a kind of a softer approach rather than trying to go really heavy outbound and directly target people. We're using various different means to develop relationships with people and then leverage those relationships to try and turn them into business.
And what role does the website play in acquiring new clients?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's an interesting question because there is an argument that, like, for an agency, a website probably doesn't have the inbound marketing potential that other kinds of businesses have. But nevertheless, it's absolutely a fact that, if somebody wants to know who you are, like you're talking to them and they want to understand who you are and know a bit about you, they're going to go and look at your website. Right. So I think really, like for most agencies, websites are support material, really. They're not generally going to originate a piece of business, although that does happen. But mostly, I think, it's about making sure that it's a really good display of your proposition and information about you, so that when you're having another conversation, then somebody goes and looks at the website, it's all there, and they're going to, it's going to back up exactly what you've been saying to them.
And so usually when I have marketeers on the show, they talk about their website always being a work in progress. So if you were to improve anything on the website, what would it be? Would it be the ability to convert the traffic, actually get some leads from that, and good quality leads, or the user experience?
Well, it's actually undergoing a major redesign at the moment, actually, is the website. And we as a business have only been going, I think, between 4 and 5 years.
Okay.
And the website has always been the way it has always been. So, we're doing a major refresh at the moment. But I think really, like, one of the focuses for that is just to make sure that that it's got comprehensive information about what we do, and allowing people to understand the different types of things that they can take from us. Broadly, most of the business that we do with clients is retained full service conversion optimization work. But there are other ancillary services that we provide. We can do, standalone analytics and research. We can do standalone dev work. There's various other things like that. So that for me has been the main focus, is to try and make sure that the depth and breadth of what we can do and the different types of things that we can do is really clearly articulated. Plus, absolutely, as you say, we're thinking about better ways of being able to try and generate leads from things like paid search, and having appropriate landing pages where that kind of traffic can come in, and it's dealt with in the way that is appropriate to that kind of traffic and where it's come from, and has appropriate CTAs and things like that. So I think really, like, we're just thinking a lot more about the different roles that the website plays, and trying to deal with them separately and make sure that everything's catered for.
And coming back to the service that you guys offer, what would you say you guys do just a little bit different that separates you from other people that occupy the same space?
Yeah, I think really, like, for me, having been in it for so long, and having been, worked in-house and with big organizations trying to scale programs, like, really, the thing about CRO or experimentation is that there's a huge amount of people out there doing it who just simply don't do it properly. Not necessarily intentionally or even wittingly. Like, there's just a huge amount of people, both in agencies, consultancies, and in client side, who kind of think that that's what they're doing, but don't know that they're sort of doing it wrong, and in a way that actually they'd be better off not bothering. And a lot of that's to do with things like, do you understand statistics properly? The way you measure A/B tests is very important, and to how effective it will be. And there's a lot of different perception about what the discipline even is. So, you have very radically different ways of approaching it. Some people won't even do A/B testing. They'll just basically come with a big list of best practices, and say you should implement these things on your website, and that goes by the name of conversion optimization. So there's some very radical different things, and actually, like, doing it properly is really quite a skilled thing. And that's ultimately what we offer. Is we collectively, myself and the other people that work within the business now, have a lot of skill of building and scaling these programs in-house mostly, and so we understand how to make that work in our clients' businesses. And so we're really like part agency, part consultancy, where we can bring a lot of experience and skill to the table where other practitioners might not be. So that's kind of how we sell ourselves.
And so this is a part of the show where I get to pick your brain as a marketeer, as someone who experiments a lot, right? So you're talking a lot about conversion optimization. So why don't you just tell us what would be the biggest challenge in marketing for conversion optimization?
Yeah, I think, like, mostly the biggest challenge is trying to get people to appreciate the real benefit of it. And the big problem is that ultimately conversion optimization is about being as data driven as you can, and being led by what data tells you and what experiments tell you. And ultimately, a hell of a lot of people, whether they realize it or not, they prefer to make decisions using their own opinion and intuition. And that really comes down to a lot of the way that business works and the way that hierarchy in business works. So, big organizations, like, they hire people based on their expertise and experience. And so that person is immediately under pressure to prove that the way they're remunerated and the way they've been brought into the business was right, because they've bring all this experience. So they want to, they want to make changes using their own opinion, and they want to show that they can use their mind to do things. And so, they want to come up with ideas, and they want to implement them, and they want to make change and stuff like that. And that's quite contrary to the idea that you can let a process of experimentation evolve your website or your content or whatever. And so that's the biggest challenge. And anybody who works in conversion optimization will be very familiar with that. Like, everybody trying to scale these programs and will come up against effectively that in different formats, which is people who don't really respect or don't want to believe in the power of experimentation because they ultimately believe that their intuition and opinion is better. And it's a political thing, really. What I always try and show people is, there's some very, very, very hard data that will show that, without experimenting, 1 in 10 things that you do to your website will actually give you any positive return. And that means 90% of your effort in web and content development is a waste of money. And when you run experiments all day, every day, as we do, you don't need a stat to tell you that, because you see it day in, day out. And the fact is, the things that you think are going to work, the things that seem completely no-brainer, that like can't possibly lose, will very often have a detrimental impact on conversion, and surprise everybody, and vice versa. Things that you think aren't going to work will work. So you just can't guess what to do to your website. It doesn't work. You have to use this sort of data-driven process. Otherwise, you're just wasting tons of money. And that is really the reality of it. But unfortunately, politics gets in the way, and people would rather have been the one that came up with this cool shiny thing than do what's right.
Right. Yeah. Or even just being able to shift mentally, right? If you've always done it one way that you said is ineffective, being able to pivot and shift and do something that's effective, I can imagine that being, people don't change very easily.
Yeah, there's a lot of inertia of just, like just trying to, it's very difficult to change the way people do things. It's really interesting how COVID played out with that, though, because, like there's things like digital transformation and stuff like that, companies that had been struggling with that for years did it in weeks because they had to, so just kind of shows like it is possible to change really easily, like if you've got the right impetus for it.
Yeah. I just want to switch gears here for a second and talk about you as a leader. Jonny, what kind of content do you consume to educate yourself and grow as a person and as a professional?
Yeah, so I'm very active on LinkedIn, and just interacting with other people and trying to, I'm always really interested in the kind of comments that people have on the stuff that I post, and vice versa, and just different people's opinions. So I love that, really, just like hearing other people's opinions and the way they view things. More formally, I try and read quite a bit of business literature. I actually don't very often read things that are directly about conversion optimization or necessarily even marketing. Like, a lot of the time I'm trying to read things that are about productivity or stuff like that. At the moment, I'm quite interested in behavioral economics and behavioral psychology, which is completely relevant to what we do, but into the sort of slightly more deeper side of it, which gets into a bit more of the academic literature. But at the same time, like I have a lifelong passion for philosophy, and I try and keep up with reading a lot of that. And I do think there are like a lot of applications between thinking incredibly critically and philosophically, and how you can apply that to business. So yeah, I mean, to be honest though, like it's quite difficult. I have 2 kids, and there isn't a lot of time to do that sort of stuff. But I think my most sort of interesting part is coming across people with quite opposing opinions, which I just always think is really interesting, and I'm always very respectful of people with different opinions, and it helps me to think differently sometimes. So
very cool. We are slowly coming to the end of the episode, but before we do, I just want to hit you with some rapid fire questions. Short and sweet, but answer as honest as possible. How's that sound?
Yeah, great.
Jonny, what's the single thing that your company is focused on right now the most?
In my particular division is improving people's profit, really, I guess, ultimately,
Okay.
our clients.
If there were no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you want to have fixed for the company today?
I would love for us to have really, really advanced insight capabilities for our clients, which is difficult because they don't want to pay for it.
Okay. If you were to, let's just say you were to start your professional career over again, what would you say, what would be the piece of advice that you give yourself?
I think confidence gets you a long way.
All right, everyone. That was Jonny from journeyfurther.com. You can check out all their great work there, journeyfurther.com. Jonny, thank you so much for being on the show today. Before we end, I give our guests the last word. So if you want to sum up everything that we talked about, or if you feel like there's something that we forgot, I just want to give you the last word. The floor is yours.
No, I would say, our single biggest message is test everything. If you have a website, test everything.
Very cool. Thanks for being on the show today.
Great. Thank you very much.